What I do, you do? Wait. Alright, I just wanted to go live to talk about 1 Corinthians 9 and 20 and then some. So let's get first from 1 Corinthians 9 and 20. I'm going to read first from the KJV and I believe pick it up at verse 14. Even so hath the Lord ordained that they which preach the gospel should live of the gospel, but I have used none of these things, neither have I written, for it were better for me to die than that any man should make my glorying void. For glory of for necessity is laid upon me, yea, woe is unto me if I preach not the gospel. For if I do this thing willingly, I have a reward. But if I go against my will, but if against my will, a dispensation of the gospel is committed unto thee. What is my reward then? Verily, they that when I preach the gospel, I may make the gospel of Christ without charge. That means for free. That I abuse not my power of the gospel. For though I be free from all men, yet have I made myself servant unto all, that I may gain the more. And unto the Jews I became as a Jew, that I may gain the Jews. To them that are under the law, as under the law, that I might gain them that are under the law. To them that are without the law, as without the law, being not without the law to God, but under the law to Christ, that I might gain them that are may gain them that are without law. Okay, so that is basically up to 21. So Paul was saying, okay, I'm not going to charge for the gospel, teach the gospel because it's free. It's all love, and God would give me proper reward to do it willingly. So from verse 20, talks about that he might reward the Jews, and from verse 21, he's talking about the Gentiles. So he's got both Jew and Gentile. How he, as a servant of Christ, was going to try to gain both of them as best he could for Christ's sake. Okay, so that's the King James Version, and I like the King James Version, but this video might sound like I don't, because I'm going to read from some other scripts to show how the King James Version might struggle with translation because it was so long ago. It was just really famous, and I like the history and everything, and I really love how beautiful it sounds. But I'm gonna read from the new NIV, which happens to be my least favorite. It's really famous, but they're working from a much more modern, with all the scholarship that had gone on since then. So I'm gonna read from the NIV, and then I'm gonna look at the Greek interlinear. So the Greek interlinear will go down to the heart of the matter, what was actually said, and it's not going to matter who translated it when I prove what it says in the Greek. Okay, so I don't have to start it all the way at 14 to get to the point. I can make this more brief by starting from 19. Though I am free and belong to no man, I make myself a slave to everyone to win as many as possible. To the Jews I became like a Jew to win the Jews. To those that are under the law, I became under the law, though I myself am not under the law. One more time. Though myself is not under law, so that I may win those under the law. To those not having the law, I became like those not having the law, though I am not free from God's law, but am under Christ's law, so as to win those not having the law. So this can be confusing because he's saying in that verse 20 that he is under law, but he said God's law is Christ's law. He never said the Mosaic law, not once. So that's probably how the translation got so confusing. So if I go back to verse 20, let's look at the King James Version. It says, "And unto the Jews I became as a Jew, that I might gain the Jews that are under the law, as under the law, that I might gain them that are under the law." Well, this is really confusing too, because he says under the law twice, like for no good reason. It's really redundant. So let's look at the Greek and try to find out who's right on this. Okay, let's hit the Greek. I'm gonna flip the phone around so we can see the Greek. Okay. Oh, that's blurry. Can you focus, please? Okay. Okay. And I became. Here's verse 20. Can you see verse 20? And I became to the Jews as a Jew, in order that Jews I might gain to those under the law as under the law, not being myself under law. So you see right here it says not. What does that say? Me in Greek, me, not myself. That says autos, myself. Under, that says hypo. That's the pi, the omicron, and on the left, what do they call that? The eta, the iota, or something. No, not iota. The what's it called? So let me see right here. That's the eta. That's the H, the big H right there. The heta. Okay. So we see right there. He says hypo. He said hypo. Or he said hypo. Right there, hypo. Under. Under means hypo. Like you're hypothermia. You're under the temperature. So he's not under the law, you know. So that's this verse. Let me go to another verse now, because I just want to move on from that. It's just called 1 Corinthians for brevity, but I wanted to get into some other scriptures. So let's look at Revelation 13. Revelation 13. Let's look at this right here. It says, okay, let's pick it up from here. Verse 7, let's say 5. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given unto him over all kindreds and tongues and nations, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. If any man have ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and faith of the saints. So, coming back to this right here, the hold on, let me check these messages, because I didn't know I could, but let's see. Okay. Thank you. Peace and love to you, family. Thank you so much. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. Okay. So here go. My problem with this interpretation is that It's talking about how the beast has been given authority over the whole world, and he might attack the saints of God. But it's saying for the saints to endure through this hardship. Um, this is not yet the end. So when it says that those that take into captivity must go into captivity, it's not really this part of the story. Like maybe you're thinking of Revelation 20 or something. When it comes to this part, Revelation 13, all it's simply saying, in my assessment, is that they, those that are the saints that are taken into captivity, to go into captivity, those that are put to the sword must die by the sword, because it's the endurance of the faith. Because the Lamb was slain before the foundation of the world, and his people that are going to be in his temple, the chosen one, the elect, the remnant, they might die, but that doesn't mean that they won't make it in the temple, because the temple in heaven is going to take people that whose physical body may have died, and they live spiritually. And that's kind of hard to understand, but that might be partly why the translation is so difficult. So let me read in the NIV again. Not my favorite, but it's got a little more of the test of time. Uh, so it says, if anyone is to go into captivity he will go. If anyone is to be killed by the sword, with the sword he is killed. This calls for patient endurance and faithfulness on the part of the saints. Okay, so let me look at it the Greek. Let's all look at it the Greek. All right. If anyone has ear, let him hear. If anyone is for captivity, to captivity he goes. If anyone by the sword will kill, it behooves him by a sword to be killed. So this is the Greek, but he's translating from the King James apparently. So let's look at it really closely. It says, if anyone is for captivity, to captivity he goes. And this is clear. Like you can even look at the translate. It says Heda Pi Aleph or Alpha. What's that G? I forgot what that G is called. Let's see. Gamma. Duh. Okay. Gamma, epsilon, iota. So it says apage. Let's hear what they say. Apage. Apage. I definitely didn't get it right. Apage. And it says he goes. He goes. So it doesn't say he's taken. It doesn't whatsoever say he's taken. And that makes it more difficult, because when you come down to here, it says, if anyone by a sword will kill. So let's see if we can. I might save this for another video. I don't know if I can hold my hands and type. Let's see if. Okay, let's just do this. Okay, hold on. Okay, let's delete this. Pull up the Greek, and what are we trying to type in? will kill. That's alpha, pi, omicron, K2, what it is, tau, epsilon, whatever that N is called, I forgot to call it N, epsilon, iota, extends. So this word is extends right here. If anyone will kill. So if anyone extends the sword, he will be killed, but it behooves him. I don't know, I'm not convinced because I think that he's mistranslating, because I think what it's saying is if anyone extends the sword, that person will be killed. Because if you read up to the top, it goes, it talks about the saints and the tribulation they're going to, the troubles they're going to face. So I actually typed it in already. This right here. It says, this is verses 7 to 9. And it says, literally, it says, they made war against them and defeated them and gave them power and bore them, both men and women and men of all nations. So everybody under the sun was under the power of the beast. And all these are the inhabitants of the land whose name is written in the book of life of the harvest, the slain of the world. So if you go over to the Greek over here, this man's translation, it says, who's going to be killed by the sword? Oh yeah, we're going up. It says right here, not. Look, right here, it says not. But you see right here, there's no word not. Not is it's not Omicron in, it's not. I just looked this up. What was not? I can't remember. Let's see. Okay, let's delete this. English to Greek. Let me get English on my keyboard. N-O-T. It says Dan. Dan. That's what you say in Greek, Dan. So you look right here, and it says right here, there's no Den. There's not even a D. Anyway, moving on. That's kind of a difficult one. I thought about maybe like not really trying to do that, but this verse, but I'm convinced that there's some trouble with that one, so I wanted to give it to anyone who has ears. Let them hear, I guess. Now moving on, I just got one last topic. Hopefully this is brief. I've already been on here for 19 minutes. The last topic is Hosea 2:16. Hosea 2:16. In that day, declares the Lord, you will call me husband. You call me my husband. You will no longer call me master. Or some versions say, they leave it in the Hebrew like they do Loami and other parts of Hosea 2. So here goes in King James. King James puts it in the Hebrew. The words of interest. So it says, and it shall come, probably because you try to translate the English, you're going to have difficulties with the terminology because there's a lot of cultural stuff in there and different languages altogether. So different languages that are so different that don't share that much commonality. It might not translate that good. So King James says, And it shall be at that day, saith the Lord, thou shalt call me Ishi, and shalt no more call me Bali. So when you put the I at the end, it means my. So Ishi means my Lord, and Bali means, sorry, Ishi means, can mean my Lord, but usually it doesn't. It means my man. It means my man. And Bali means my Lord. So a lot of let's say Yehuda, Yehudim, they basically would say like, oh, he said don't call me Baal, and if they understand the language so well, how can they be so confused? But like when the sin of Baal Peor, it wasn't say the sin of Baal, it said Baal Peor is like a particular Canaanite god, and because Greek and Hebrew both originate in Canaanite and pagan Gentile past, like not respectively of order. It's right there, by the way. It's like the words of God and stuff. Like you can say God and mean Satan or something like that, or Lord, the Lord of the Flies, you know what I mean? Like Baal Zebub, they didn't say just Baal, they said Baal Zebub, the Lord of the Flies, So Lord in and of itself isn't a curse word, but the Jews have went and took all the sons of Saul and all the sons of David and everybody else, anybody that had a Baal in their name, and changed it to Bishoseth or something, excuse me, as though that didn't show the obvious changes. Like, I'd rather people just keep it real than trying to be legalistic about it. Like God's gonna be like, oh, glad you changed it. Like, if you would have not changed it, then you would have been cursed. But because you changed it, good for you. Kudos. It has nothing to do with how you treat others. It all has to do with the scribal errors or whatever. Whatever that would even mean. Like by fixing it, you're making it less of an error, but you're changing it from the original. Like, it is what it is. So the reason I bring that up is because I wanted to show you the Hebrew. Sorry, let me flip it one more again. Okay, right here. Baal. Baal means husband. It doesn't mean Lord, but in ancient Semitic culture, the husband was Lord over his wife, unfortunately. As rotten as that sounds. So, if you come down here, these are all the things that Baal can mean. These are synonyms: husband, hubby, owner, possessor, Baal, spouse, master, Lord, man. So Baal can also mean man. So if you click on man. Sorry, excuse me. Where is that? Oh yeah, Hebrew's right to left, so it pops up way over here. It says Aish, which sounds more like female and in Arabic, which is confusing. So it says man. Oh, when you put an L at the beginning, it says a staff or something. I don't know. Person, a man. So here's the point. The point is, that God told his people no longer call me Lord when he marries them again. So he divorced Israel, but when he marries Israel, going, no longer call me Lord, call me my man. Don't say my Lord, say my man. Which means, like the translators would say, that means my husband, and it does in a lot of ways. But Baal means husband too, as we've seen. So both, it doesn't. You're not going to get the answer by simply the translation. It takes understanding. It takes understanding. So obviously God isn't a man, even though like he's called a man when he wrestled Jacob, but it wasn't really God. It was one of his angels or Jesus. It takes understanding. So what can I say about this? I really want to read John 15 because I think that's the most important part of this. When the Lord marries Israel, no longer will you call me my Lord, my husband. You'll call me my man, my husband. So I want to read John 15, and hopefully we get a little bit of understanding. And I'm sorry, this will take a little while to get all the way to the point of John, but it's so important that please bear with me. And if you don't want to bear with me, skip forward or click off or whatever. It's all good. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that bears fruit, he prunes it so that it may bear more fruit. You are already clean because of the word which I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you, the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine. So neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me, and I in him, he bears much fruit, for apart from me you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he is thrown away as a branch and dries up. And they gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. If you abide in me, my words abide in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. My Father is glorified by that you bear much fruit. So prove to be my disciples, just as the Father loved me. I have loved you. Abide my love. Okay, let me say something real quick. I will say that he was talking to Jews. Like a lot of people, when especially Hebrew Israelites, when they say that Jesus only spoke to Jews, they think that means that only Jews can be saved, but they miss the ministry of Paul and the Acts of the Apostles and everything that happened thereafter. But in Jesus' life, in Jesus' ministry, his fleshly ministry, not that Jesus is fleshly, but he had a flesh and a life on earth for 30 whatever years. During those few years of ministry, 2 to 3 or whatever years, I'm not sure, that he was actively preaching and moving around, he basically was talking to Jews, except for two. And inasmuch, let me simply say, he was letting these Jews know, like, you might think you're saved, but if you don't abide in him, so like a branch on a vine, so he can bring nutrients from the ground and water from the ground to get you the things you need to bear the fruit, then you will be cut off and cast away. And enough time in the sun, you probably wither up and die. You're not going to be grafted back in. But if you follow, you can be grafted in. So let's keep on reading. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. These things I have spoken to you, that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be full. This is my commandment, that you love one another, just as I loved you. I don't remember the Torah saying, God saying, just as I loved you, love one another. He did say love another. He did say, I love you. But I'm not saying he wouldn't say that or didn't imply that. I won't go that far. I just didn't see it explicitly said. And that just came to my head. I probably shouldn't have said it. Excuse me. This is my commandment, that you love one another just as I loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that one lay down his life for his friends. So Jesus says love has no manifestation than when one lies down his life for his friends, because that's totally selfless. That's altruistic. You're not going to get nothing once you die. I mean, in heaven you will, of course, but Jesus is teaching people in heaven. Like, when does the Old Testament talk about heaven? Maybe at the end of Ezekiel, but then a lot of Jews think that means on earth. In Maccabees, with they took out. So, verse 15, verse 14, you are my friends if you do what I command you. No longer do I call you slaves, for the slave does not know what his master is doing, but I have called you friends. For all things that I have heard from my Father, I have made known to you. So big ups to Jesus telling us all the things they got right from the Father in heaven. So it's on us to use it. So Jesus says, like, what's he say? He says, love each other, like, even to the point of laying down your life. And he will lay his life down for you. He's showing us, he's leading by example in his earthly ministry to teach as the first fruits. You know how the apostles were martyred, except for, of the 12, just John, and of the 70, I don't know, a handful. So, and this goes into Revelation 13:10, which we're talking about, of all the tribulation maybe. But to make a long story short, he's saying, call me friend, not Lord. So they often call Jesus Lord. Lord was a common thing to call Jesus, master, the master of the law and of spirituality, and the leader, They all follow Jesus, the Messiah. So what's the point? So when Hosea said, when he marries Israel, no longer call me Lord, but call me my man, I think that's what Jesus is saying. I think that's the point. Like, most people don't put this up in cross-reference, but Jesus is saying, like, I'm going to marry you, my people. I'm your Lord. This is the supper. This is the supper of the wedding. This is I'm marrying you actively right now as you follow your Messiah. This is the Messianic age, the thing long prophesied for. So as you follow your Messiah, this time it's not going to be thou shalt not this, because you're stiff-necked then. Then you built the calf and this and that. It's not going to be like that. This time he's going to give you all the secrets. You're going to know right from wrong in your heart. And so, inasmuch, it's not going to be do this, do that. When you were a child, just weaned from the breast, it's do this, don't do that, like thou shalt not do this, but when you have in your heart to love one another, you don't do this and that, It was all supposed to be a stumbling block anyways, like to trip you up so you would be humble and stop being so arrogant about having been taken out of Egypt. He wanted to make you a better people, and here you are thinking it's all about you. He did it for his name's sake, that the whole world, which Jesus and the apostles did bring it to the whole world, that is the Messianic age, would be a light. You would shine for it. So everybody, but he had to teach the world of you through reproach, so that you could see, so they would see what not follows. So the Lord, it wasn't about the Asherah poles and the sacrifices and all these things that the Canaanites view of God, the Hebrews took on. It was the love. And if you don't have the love, you don't have the point. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Oh, let me read the comments right quick to see if I'm not dissing nobody. I didn't mean. Okay. Thank you, Faith Diaz. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm out.